Good morning, people. Welcome to another edition of the Early Watch. Sorry about yesterday, but I was under the weather. And Wednesday, I was going to go to the range, but I was under the weather for that too. So
Right on.
there you have it.
Good to hear you're feeling a little better, but sounds like it's a food thing, like something you ate type of thing.
Yeah, I went to Chinese and probably shouldn't have. Sometimes when you eat different variety of food than you normally have, it doesn't sit with you. And at a buffet, you never know. You get something bad. It's hard to say.
Oh, you had a buffet?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. I was gonna say, was it something like, oh, I'm gonna try something I don't normally eat, or if it was just like something that cooked poorly or something. But yeah, at a buffet, who knows?
Uh, I don't normally eat Chinese, but I like it. I mean,
Well, I'm guessing though, you don't go to some crazy buffet and start eating like weird fish heads and some kind of soups with spices in them and all kinds of like weird things. You're probably just eating beef with rice type of stuff. You're not eating like the exotic or Chinese foods, right?
uh, I I try about anything. I'm not a fan of fish, so any fish meals are out unless it's batter dipped and deep fried and square and shaped patty. I'm not interested in any fish. But the various soup type things they have, yeah, I'll try them.
Oh, okay. We have a place here that's got tiny little octopuses. It's upset as salad, like they're cold and they look like little octopuses still. So they look cool. It looks weird, but it's like vinegar or something, some kind of clear type of sauce on them or dressing or something, and then maybe an onion or two. But it's basically just a big, like a thing in the buffet line. It's just a bunch of tiny octopuses all dead, and I've seen people eat that by the spoonfuls. Like, that's the kind of thing that I'm not trying. I'm not testing myself out on that kind of thing or nothing. I haven't seen too many spicy things, but then anyway, that's Chinese buffet, I guess.
Uh, I had a couple of different things that were sweet and spicy, and it was ginger basically, but real ginger, man, that's fairly hot and lingers for a long damn time.
Well, that's true too, and that's the kind of thing that can throw you for a loop. If you were like, I could see somebody being like, "Oh, this ginger is great," and then eat like way too much of it, and then it's sort of like acidity or something. It's like one of them things that you can have too much of, kind of throw you off whack.
Yeah, it's no
You, know,
telling. Shit,
you just feeling uncomfortable. You like having literal sickness, and you
I'm
know,
literally sick.
yeah.
So,
Well, we're getting a couple people saying hello over on the YouTube side. Well, at least one person saying it a couple of times, and Patriots asking to check your email. Wondering if you checked your
I
email.
did. I
So,
did, and I will bring that up here pretty soon.
okay. So we do have 8 people watching. I guess we just jumped right into it today, but it's an early watch, right? So thanks everybody for joining us. It took a couple of days there for people to do their things, and now we're getting back into it. See a couple of people out there on the gun channel side as well. We broadcast or simulcast it over there. So I don't know. Have you seen anything going on news-wise? Have you collected some news, or have you been distracted?
I haven't been looking at too much. Excuse me. I've been mostly laying in bed. All right, where the hell's the eight? There it is.
It's been a while since I've been sick, but I almost would rather be sick to the point. Well, not I'm not saying that because when you're miserable, you're miserable. But when I've been sick a couple of times where it's just like a physical thing or something where like you're just stuck there sitting there, and it's like all you do is just sit around thinking about all the stuff you could be doing. When you're real miserable, then you're just miserable. You go out of it, you're sick for a while, you come out of it, you're great again. But I don't like that time when you know, you're sick and you just know all the things you could be doing, and it's just even worse because you feel like you 90% there you could be doing something. So if you're sick and not paying attention, then I guess what I'm trying to say is it kind of almost goes by faster, right? When you're just kind of out of it and it just not paying attention to
Yes,
time's
I did actually take muscle relaxers to sleep because I was feeling so bad.
I get this earache thing once in a while that'll come in out of nowhere, would knock me out for like a day. And I'm always thinking about that, like, dang it, why didn't I have some sort of just something, you know, NyQuil or something like to knock you out and sleep? I never think about it till the day after. Like, dang it, should have slept during half of it.
Uh, I don't know. I was sick enough that I couldn't fall asleep, you know, and I don't know how much it was mental or whatnot, but finally I got up and took two Plexeril, and then about an hour later I was out, and that would have been yesterday at about, I don't know, 10 o'clock, and I woke up and my old lady was home, so it was after 4 o'clock. I don't really remember um, much. When you wake up after taking the muscle relaxers, you don't wake up. You're real groggy and shit for a few hours, which is why I don't normally take the damn things. Uh, but I have been here lately because the doctors wanted to see if they'll help with my shoulder, and they don't. But enough about sickness. Let's get on with the show. First thing, I want to discuss a little bit of reloading because over the course of the past few weeks, I've been asked a question that at least 4 times has been misinterpreted, or I misspoke, or I wasn't clear about something I said, and it's talking about pressures. I have the Ruger Super Blackhawk Hunter, which I broke. And I also have those 1875 Outlaws clones made by Uberti. Now, I talk about how they test these guns. The Ubertis are tested 50% over pressure, and the Rugers are tested 100% over pressure. And at some point in me talking about this, people seem to pick up the idea that it's 100% overcharge by powder volume or weight, whatever. And that is absolutely not the case. My Ruger, when I blew it, it was 30% powder overcharge. So that 30% overweight caused over 100% overpressure. The pressure spike goes up exponentially from the overcharged powder. And I can't stress this enough that you have to be aware of that, because a slight overcharge on something, and the reason I bring up the Ubertis is because they're not, even though they look like they're just as good as the Ruger, they're not. They will not take pressure as the Rugers will take, not even close. But when you're overloading, tread very carefully about overcharge when you're reloading. I mean, uh, I don't want to see anybody get hurt. And that's about what I wanted to say about that.
So people been emailing you or something, or
Various conversations I've been in, mostly one-on-one conversations with people, uh, not on chat. asking about, can you put a double load in the Ruger? God in heaven, no. Uh, like I say, it was 30% overweight, and it cracked that cylinder in that gun. And those things are, quote unquote, nearly unbreakable. That's not true. That's a rumor. But still, they are known for being stout.
So there's a bunch of people that appreciate the reloading topic, it looks like, but feel free to ask questions and want to keep talking about something.
Yeah. The aforementioned email sent to me by Patreon, thank you. A guy walked into Faith City Mission, and I'm not going to use names, in Amarillo, Texas, and evidently another guy walked in, and this was the same day as the Parkland, Florida thing. Walked in and tried to take over 100 people in the mission's chapel hostage. This dude, in the first part of the story, was they were tied up with zip ties, but the lady who did it left him a little loose, and he got free and wrestled the gun away from the suspect, but he took off. Whatever reason, I don't know, but he took off, and he was confronted by the police, and they told him to drop the gun, and he was afraid to drop it for fear it would go off. And according to the story, he was putting the gun down when they shot him. And the reason I bring this up, for one, it was sent to me, and I tried to, make use of whatever the early Watch Nation gets. The reason I bring this up mainly is because as concealed carry holders or persons who concealed carry, there is always the risk that the cops won't know you're a good guy. So you want to be damn mindful if you're ever in a situation where you have to draw your weapon, because they're rolling up on the scene, they're seeing a guy with a gun drawn. And I'm sure your chances of getting shot in that situation are exponentially higher than if you're not holding a gun. I would hope so anyway.
There's some potential there. I would say we were talking about training the other day. I don't know if it was last night or the night before. And I think one of the differences between one of the better CCW classes or training classes that are like pistol classes, we'll talk to you about that stuff, like the theories or whatever, the probabilities of the eventuality. Because if you have a lethal force incident, it's not going to happen in the middle of nowhere, and there's no way you ever have a situation like that without having law enforcement involved. So just telling you how to carry or just telling you how to shoot is literally like a third of the conversation. So I really appreciate the classes that get into all that stuff because that's the stuff that everybody can practice shooting, everybody can practice carrying around, everybody can practice drawing, everybody can practice evaluating a situation or scenario as to whether or not, what the results need to be of that. But how often do you get to experience or practice or even have conversations about what you do next and next and next? So that's a good point.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up, because that part of it isn't talked about nearly enough. And that's probably just about as dangerous as confronting the guy in the first place. I mean, got to imagine these cops are rolling up on a scene. They don't know you from freaking Adam. They just see dude with a gun.
At Front Sight, there was a neat movie. Front Sight's a training place in outside of Vegas in Pahrump, Nevada. It's a really big facility, and they've got a really developed curriculum that they pulled from Gun Sight. So you'll be there for like 2-4 days. Some of the classes are multiple days long like that, and there'll be classroom range, kind of alternating throughout the day, both for physical fatigue and both sides. Like you get enough lecture, you get enough classroom. It's boring and you're not absorbing it. You go out to the range, and at some point you get fatigued and you get tired. So they do a pretty decent balance of taking you inside and outside as a class to do some of this. And one of their lectures or one of their classroom portions is what to do after. Actually, a couple of them, quite a few of them, are what to do after, or what you're going to experience after. And they put it in the light of, think of the job of the occupation of being a police officer. We've all experienced it in the exaggerated form on TV, but in real life, there's those characters are based off of the character types, the people who want to be a police officer. So of the people that want to be a police officer and that call comes in, who's the first ones on scene? Like who's the most ambitious, the most mobile, the most active, the most curious, and the most alert? Are they going to be your rookies, your younger ones usually, your ones that are, typically the first ones on scene. So you want to start thinking about that, and then potentially being aware that police are going to come in. They're going to be coming to a scene based off of calls, potentially from all around town. So they're going to be coming in from behind you, from in front of you, from the sides, and to be aware of all that. It's the kind of thing where you become aware of what might happen with a threat. But yeah, like you say, too many people are oblivious to the part after, where you're going to have a whole nother set of circumstances that are new to experience, that have lifelong consequences, literally, if you don't pay attention to what's going on.
Right. I'd really hate to see somebody get shot and wounded or killed in the act of defending themselves because of how the police rolled up and how they reacted to that. I guarantee you could be screaming you're the good guy, but if you turn towards them and got a gun, they're going to shoot your ass. And work out the details after. And I don't blame them a fucking bit either.
No, bad guys can turn around and say, I'm the good guy, until the cops turn around and not.
That's where, like, in the training class I had, they suggested that you lay the gun on the ground if it's possible when the scenario's over, before the cops arrive, or reholster. But in some of these situations that won't be possible. So be goddamn sure you listen to police commands and do exactly what they tell you. I mean, that's not the time to be standing up for your Second Amendment rights.
Well, but you also got the potential of just 3 cops getting there 3 different times, literally, and telling you 3 different things from 3 different directions. So there's all kinds of chaos that's going to happen in the fallout from all that.
Rick said there's another school incident in Indiana.
Right on. Oh, sorry. I'm reading the thing on Instagram, not what you just said. Somebody posted a thing. Memorial Day is not Veterans Day. They usually post something today or tomorrow. Similar.
Well, I ain't seeing no special report on NBC.
I'm sure it's coming.
Yeah, usually they're first to. There's no special report on MSN either. Yet. Okay, we'll just have to see what happens. If I don't get Fox, I don't have cable here. I hate watching the freaking news, period. But basically, there ain't nothing else on but infomercials. So it's the news or throwing the DVD, which I can't do very well while I'm doing the show. Uh, I cannot do that while I'm doing this show. Now, if I wanted to exit out all this, I could, but I can't. I can't go use the internet for other stuff. My connection is that feeble. We'll bring you updates on it as soon as something shows up.
Got more people jumping in out there, so I got to be back in a minute, and then we'll take a look at the main page gun channels. That'll keep us going for a minute here.
All right.
Back in a few.
Let's see here. In doing show research and just killing time, I ran across an article asking the question, is the mouse gun dying? Or is it a dying breed? Uh, and by mouse gun, they're talking something smaller than 38 caliber, I think, and subcompact or ultra compact. And they'd go on and on about this guy's talking about having the tip up Beretta and baby Browning and whatnot. Basically, just says that the manufacturer of these things, there's not many of them being made anymore. I'm of the mindset that any gun's better than no gun. So, if you're carrying a little stubby hell 22 rimfire, beats nothing. Maybe not by a hell of a lot, but it does. It's better than no gun. But if you're carrying one, you best be really close and personal. And I have carried 22. I have a little Phoenix, and there's things where I'm going or somewhere that I'm wearing something that won't really hide my main carry gun. I'll throw that Phoenix in my pocket, you know, and I do not feel uh, any less protected with it than I do with the 9. It really doesn't matter to me. Uh, the fact of the matter is that it's going to be so damned unlikely that I'm going to need a gun that I normally don't worry about it because I live in small town nowhere, Illinois. And I couldn't tell you the last time we had a firearm incident, being somebody shot, or even a murder of any kind. Probably in the late 80s. We've had a couple here in my lifetime, but that's about it. They were domestic. Yeah, I don't fault anybody for carrying a 22. Uh, Modern 22 ammos, if you buy quality stuff, it's pretty reliable. I mean, I've been running Remington's Golden Bullets bulk, and I've not had a single freaking failure on those. And I've shot thousands of them. Now, other brands I had one or two and 500 on the Winchester Black Shit M, I think it is. Uh, a bunch of fucking misfires on the Aegilius Super Extra, whatever crap is. The only thing I could get when the 22 was scarce. I've had no misfires or non fires or failures from CCI of anything. And I can't recall ever having an issue with CCI. But I don't buy CCI standard stuff. I buy the mini mags or CCI shorts. And I think that a lot of the misfire issues from rimfire is because of the way it's handled in shipping and whatnot. Because it gets thrown around and shit, and the primer gets knocked loose from the rim. I do not think it's a manufacturing issue. I think it's a handling issue. And I I believe I read that somewhere, but I can't remember. But if 22 is all you got, carry it. If you want to carry it, carry it. Uh, I got no problem with it. Or 25. I wouldn't own a 25 just due to the ridiculous cost of something that's not as good as a 22. And I think it would be hard on my fingers to reload. .380 is hard enough.
All right, they got a link to a story from the internet about that thing in Indiana, and everyone acted as expected and was ended quickly, and everybody went home. So what do you know? When people are aware of a situation, they were ready for it and then reacted to it. And at this point, at least, there's no overhype, but it's brand new, I guess.
Who stopped him? Or
Didn't say. Just says suspect in custody, so could have been inept, or could have been good police work, could have been any number of things, I guess.
Well, Indiana is one that's pretty damn gun friendly. Way more so than neighboring Illinois. Our damned Illinois Congress did something, or a few of the congressmen did, that surprised me to come out of the state, to be honest with you. Now, Browner took a gun bill they had and added the death penalty onto it to get him to reenact the death penalty and send it back to him. So he used what they call an amendatory veto. He added something to it that he knew they wouldn't do. But in order to get, the Republicans in the state want the death penalty reinstated because our governor's a fucking idiot. Back when Quinn did that shit. Uh, so some of our congressmen, I don't know who it was, I haven't looked into it yet, have introduced a bill reinstating the death penalty here for certain cases. A standalone bill. So we'll see where that goes. But I was a little bit ticked at Rauner for sending it back to them until I realized what he did. You know, he couldn't veto the damn thing and send it back without the risk of them overriding it. And they have overridden him several times. So what he did was do an amendatory, and he added stuff to it that they would not accept. So he effectively killed the bill doing that. The way the press spins, it's like Rauner's for gun control, but that wasn't the deal. He was trying to kill the gun control.
Got some stuff coming in on the YouTube side. Last thing was Patriot asked if you read about the high school prank.
I did. The one where they did the fake mass shooter scene.
So what's that about?
Basically, a bunch of seniors at this high school set up a mock mass shooting. And they somehow or another threw fireworks to get the noises of guns. And they come in with squirt guns, squirting people with whatever. I don't remember everything that I read, but they came in with squirt guns and, you know, haha, this was funny. Well, it wasn't taken very well by anybody. I don't know the aftermath, but the school was looking into some serious discipline for these students. And rightfully so. I mean, you know, that's a stupid ass thing to do given the climate that we got going on today. I mean, we got the news trying to scare people out of fucking schools as it is.
I didn't see anything about that on news. Of course, I don't look at news either, so it's interesting that you brought it up. But it makes me think that a couple of things. If they were to focus on that as often as the actual atrocities, I suspect they'd be, man, kids are stupid and they're gonna be dumb and do things like that. That's the one they chose to focus on. But how many schools there are? You think that's really the only instance of kids being dumb about what they think is funny?
Well, I don't think that at all. I think that this is just like quote unquote perfect storm situation for this particular type of prank.
Right, exactly, and a reason to talk about it or whatever. I'm just saying, I bet you that kids are coming up with that. Oh, I got a genius idea. We'll take firecrackers and squirt guns. But that happens a couple of times a year, and if the media were to focus on that as often as they focused on the atrocities, you know, that would be oh, I can't believe kids are this dumb. Like, why are kids doing this? So anyway, let's just remember that kids are that stupid. And then when they're talking about, here's the way you should do policy, here's how you're dumb adults for not knowing this and that, then let's also take a look at these kids. And they're not wise. They just have, you know, cognizant thoughts occasionally, and you know, sometimes. So just as many of them are idiots. And let's focus on that. And let's not forget to focus that they're basically cyclical at that age, right? You know, they might have moments of clarity and good ideas, but then they're going to have, you know, equal amount of let's do something dumb or just, you know, inexperienced dumbness. So I don't know, just you know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's frustrating that the kids are getting all the attention. It's a good example of kids being idiots.
Well, you know, and the thing is, that 19 years old today is not what 19 years old was 250 years ago. I mean, 250 years ago, you'd have been married with a few kids and either a job or a farm or some sort of way to sustain your family. Uh, and today, Jesus Christ, they're like eighth graders. Got no freaking sense whatsoever. And these morons coming out of Florida and all over the country that are wanting to give up their rights before they even get them is proof positive that they got no friggin' sense whatsoever. And they have no grasp on reality either, because even though it's all we seem to hear about, school shootings are very rare. Yeah, we hear about numerous of them a year, but how many damn schools are out there that aren't getting shot, people shot in, you know? By far the vast majority, by a huge margin. Uh, but these kids aren't seeing it that way. They're seeing there's school shooting every damn day, so it happens at every damn school. Protect me from myself. And God, I don't know. And there's so many kids that come out of school that ain't wise enough to live life. Even hell, back in the 80s when guys were coming out of college that I went to high school with, you know, by the time they got out of college, they were, 22, 24 years old. I had 2 to 4 kids and a job. Well, 3 kids at 24. But I had been working for several damn years. And these guys had no grasp on how to live life. Uh, Zero common sense. I mean, one guy in particular that I really liked, the guy, he was a friend, but not a real tight friend, could not figure out how to open the fucking doors on a school bus. Now, he got in the thing and he closed the doors with the handle, and you can clearly see the latch that comes up from the bottom to keep that handle from swinging back open. All you gotta do is push it down, open the door. He could not figure it out. And this guy was an honor student in high school, and I don't know how well he did in college. He graduated. Jesus Christ, he couldn't walk and chew gum. And that was, God, 81, 82, somewhere in there. See, I got out of high school in 79, so he did 4 years, 83. And that's just one example, and I've seen it many times where these guys, the ones that go from high school to college directly, when they come out of college, they're still on a common sense level, they're still high school kids because they've not lived any real life. And it strikes me as they're getting younger and younger. as time goes by. Would I get booted here?
No, sorry. I was looking at something on Google, and that led me to a thing about kids being sent in the mail. I guess in 1913, the post office officially started taking packages in addition to letters. So as soon as they started taking packages in 1913, uh, like a few weeks after they began doing that, somebody sent their 8-month-old kid to his grandparents. and then and that was an 11-pound kid. And I guess the weight limit was, or the kid was just shy of the 11-pound weight limit. So they were able to send their kid for 15 cents to its grandparents. And there's this whole like thing until like 1920 when the post office finally said you can't send your kids anymore. But I guess it was cheaper to put kids on. They would put a something on the kid that had stamps, like they would sew something to the kid and then put stamps on that thing, and then put them on the mail train, and they would just sit on the letters for however long they were on the train, going to wherever they were going, and people would do that instead of paying for other travel expenses. And it took them 7 years before the post office was like, quit putting your kids in the mail.
You know, you think about it though. Back in that day, the kids were probably pretty safe being handled that way. I mean, I'm not saying I agree with it. It's not it. But I mean, you know, the whole going postal thingy is a fairly recent invention. And back then, you know, there's freaking all kinds of people on trains. You know, it took a number of different people to operate one. So, you know, it isn't, I don't know, man. I would have a hard time doing that. That kind of leads me to something else that I just seen on the news yesterday. And that's parents leaving their kids in hot cars. And I'm like, you know, and what they said was that the biggest reason is the parents said they forgot the kid was in the car. Now, I have had a whole damn shitload of kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews and whatnot roll through here, and I have not ever fucking forgot I had a kid in the car. I may have wanted to after listening to him squall for an hour, but how the hell do you forget your fucking kids in the car? What kind of parent are you to do that? And they're suggesting you take off your left shoe and put it in the back seat by the kid, so you have to get back in the back seat to get it and remind yourself that the kid's there. I'm like, are we that fucking stupid? Really?
I don't know. It seems like a silly thing to say, like, remember to do this so that you'll remember to do that later. Like, if you've got a problem with remembrance stuff, why are you going to remember to take your shoe off and put it by your kid?
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Can't remember you've got a living fucking kid in the back seat of the car. You're going to remember to take your damn shoe off to remind you have a kid in the back seat. Here's a suggestion: move the fucking car seat to the front so you can look at the kid. Even though it's against law, I say, well, this is better than roasting my kid when I forget him. I mean, I do not get that one at all. I absolutely cannot believe somebody would forget their own child in a car. And they're damn lucky I ain't in charge, because if I was in charge, those fuckers would all be roasted to death. Evidently, that thing in Indiana doesn't have a damn thing that they can turn around and use for their own ends. So
Yeah, I know there's some things that like some what organizations or groups or what do they call like watch groups or whatever that's called, where they like watch the media and keep track of stuff. The media watch type of things. And I don't know if any of them are doing it specifically for guns or if there's a gun specific one. And it seems boring. I mean, I'm not interested in it, but I would be a fan. I would be enthusiastic for something like this to exist, where if they were to track on some sort of a list or a timeline or, you know, accumulated resource so people could use it for research. But try to track, you know, here was an incident that the media chose to exploit. And then maybe like a tally of some kind of indication of what kind of saturation there was, like how many sources sprung up immediately, maybe some kind of time frame, so that with some sort of a graph or some sort of a chart, you can get an idea of like how big of a blip that was on the overall radar, and then track some things like this in contrast so that you can see which ones they've sort of either intentionally or which ones resulted in the most scrutiny or exploitation from them. And then I would think that that data might show some stuff that could be useful, if for no other reason than just shine a mirror at them and say, look, you are discriminately talking about this stuff. You know, someone who seriously has a goal of the public good, or you're this foolish and you really think that all instances of a firearm are such a bad thing. Why aren't you uniform? Why aren't you consistent in your concern? Why does it seem to be focused on these particular instances which are going to get you the most mileage? Like, why is your concern so efficient? Why does it seem to be discriminate?
well, it's obvious that they have an agenda that's driving what they're doing.
Obvious to us, but I'm thinking the people that just don't care, definitely the people that are on their agenda, who, you know, drinking their Kool-Aid, they're not going to ever scrutinize it. They're not going to care one way or the other. But those people in the middle, if there's something like a gun snopes or something, you know, something that can validate concern, like, oh, okay, they're making a big deal out of this. Let's go look at gun snopes. You know, let's go see if there's a third party sober, you know, perspective on this that'll give us some way to figure out if this is really as important as what they're saying. And then they can go, oh no, put it through that filter, and this is just another, you know, one of few times that they're going to bring this up or whatever. I don't know. It's tough. And I was thinking about that. You know, Smeggy and a couple other people are really into making people aware of the times when a firearm's used to, you know, prevent crime completely just by brandishing and the crime never happens, or situations like what yesterday where you know, someone stopped someone who had intent to do all kinds of horrible things. And when you bring those up, it challenges the concept that only bad people use guns, or bad guns are only used for bad things. But on the other hand, if you keep bringing these things up and you try to match them one for one, or even show that they happen more often, so try to show those kind of stories even more often than the atrocities, then you achieve their goal of making it seem like we're in a super violent, horrible country. You know, if something bad only happens once a day, so it happens 360 times a year, that's pretty insignificant. A country of 300 million people with 365 days and all those hours and all the potential problems, all the problems we have with health and you know, consequences of food decisions and traffic and medical issues and stuff. And, you know, there's just all kinds of things that people die from every day. When you look at it, the consequence of 300 people a year isn't very big. But if they were to focus on those 300 people a year, every single day that was in the news, everybody would be continually in fear of that, whatever it was they were focusing on. So that's my problem, is if we focus on this stuff too much, they can make a mountain out of a molehill, right?
Well, me and Jimmy really tried to curtail the mass murder events as soon as possible afterwards, but our audience wants us to talk about them. So, you do what you do. Because Jimmy was really adamant about not talking about the biggest thing today, the second day after it happened. Uh, and I said, man, there's just too damn many questions people are asking. It's on their mind. So, you know, we have to. I don't fucking want to either. And we still ain't got any fucking answers. They're dribbling out shit a little bit here and there, I see. Um, I have seen a couple of different news reports, both from CNN, about the police releasing this or that bit of information. Nothing substantial that I can tell, but uh, I find that deal with the dude in Vegas is still baffling to me. How there's so little information on the dude.
Well, I mean, think about it. There's no way that those police are inept, right? They're big time city. They know what they're doing. They're well trained, and they're all legit. So there's no way that they're inept. So that means there is tons of information. What it means is that it's not being released for either strategic or it has been released and they're intentionally, for agenda based reasons, not focusing on it. The police don't have an obligation to go, hey, remember this, remember this? Like, hey, we did finish this. Remember, hey, they're not, I don't want them paying to promote it or anything. Like, do your job, finish it, go on to your next job, right? Let it die. It's history. Like, move on. As far as the police department, but as far as the media, if it doesn't meet their agenda, they'll ignore it and suggest that you're crazy for even bringing it up. Like, they don't remember even that they even looked at it. You know what I mean? They'll consider it never existing if it's completely different to their narrative. But I suspect if it came out with any kind of official ruling that was that way, that said the media just hyped up a bunch of shit and it was engineered, then our side, the conservative side, pro-gun side, would be all over it. I think there's not too much has happened on that particular one, but I agree with you. Is there any excuse for that? That was last year already, right?
I don't know, but thinking about it, that uh, last article I read where they released the dribble of information was that when they went to obtain the search warrant for I believe it was his second home, they found a cache of ammo in his garage and a gun safe. I'm like, I wonder how many rounds of ammo they consider a cache.
Yeah, they're idiots. So a stack of boxes is a cache to them, I'm sure.
Right. I think he had maybe, I don't know how many, a couple of dozen magazines loaded and then some ammo on a shelf. And they did say it was on a shelf. So, damn, shelf will only hold so much friggin' weight unless it's a freestanding steel shelf on the floor. But, it's what do they consider cache? 1,000+ rounds? Well, fuck, I've got 15 caches here then. I guarantee you the cops come in here and look around, or the press, I should say. The cops probably wouldn't think nothing of it. Seen the ammo that I have here, they'd freak the fuck out. And I only have, a moderate amount compared to other people.
Well, what's sad is they would freak the same amount out, like if they went to somebody who, I don't know, just had, ammo cans full of ammo, for whatever reason, for shit it's the fan, or for competition shooting, or for, because it's money. So for the investment of it, for whatever reason, somebody's got a garage where the whole wall of the garage is 2 layers thick of ammo cans, and it's just a big green wall of looks like a big green brick wall. If they looked at that, they'd probably have the same reaction as if they went into somebody like I don't know about you, but who the hell was I talking to? Somebody who was on gun channels was saying that they've got like 3 or 4 presses in their reloading room. They got their bench going around the perimeter of the room probably, and multiple benches or multiple presses set up so they don't have to keep taking everything apart every time they want to change calibers. And if they shoot a lot, 2, 3, 4 presses isn't a big deal, especially if you start with the rock chucker and you work your way up to a progressive. Once you throw your stuff away or sell it, you accumulate them so you have multiple presses, and then now you've gotten used to having a couple of presses because you can be way more efficient and shoot more. So you decide, oh, I'm going to upgrade to one of those old ones to a modern one. So now you have 2 modern presses. So it's not that unusual, at least from my experience, to see people who go into reloading, who take it to that level. And when you do that, you probably got the shelves or the walls or whatever behind the presses full of like just accessories and projectiles and primers and boxes and shit. Anyway, what I'm getting at, you can imagine that reloading room. They'd probably look at that the same as somebody who's got hundreds of thousands of rounds in ammo cans. You know what I mean? Because it's just the looks and the perception and the like naivete or whatever of them, like just the uninterest, the disinterest in actually learning what they're looking at. So in other words, they could look at somebody who's got 50 different calibers and not more than 100 rounds of any one caliber, just a big reloading room full of, somebody who's into shooting. They're going to look at that and think, oh, that's an arsenal. That's some kind of you uh, ammo storage or something, where they're going to see actual ammo storage and not even be able to put 2 and 2 together and understand what they're looking at.
Well, that is a fact. And I I really don't get it, because what I have here doesn't seem like that friggin' much. And I'm pushing 14,000 rounds. Uh, but half of that's 22 long rifle. Just because it was so hard to get for a while that I don't want to be in that friggin' position ever again. And I've got a bunch of grandkids that like to go out and shoot. And hell, they ain't buying their own ammo. I'm giving them ammo. Um, so it's, I'm not trying to have a fucking arsenal here at all. I just want to not be in a place where I can't find ammo when I want it. And 22 is the biggie because you can't reload that. I can whoop up a couple hundred rounds of any of the centerfire ammunition in an hour or two. So that's not really an issue, how many I got. I really have way too much 9mm loaded up already. Uh, I tag it all, but I've got so much now that I can't remember what does what. There are certain loads that perform better than others in certain situations, and I absolutely don't remember it. The only thing I can remember is that 4.75 grains of tight group and 115 grain projectile work really well in both my handguns. And that's really all I care to remember, to be honest with you, because That's all I'm using 9 for anyway. So I guess I need to go to the range and start just blowing through that all them other loadings I got, except for the stuff that's too hot.
So just got an email.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know if I'm cutting in. I was reading my phone here. Sorry. Is this a topic break, or did I make my cutting in the middle of your what you were saying? Sorry.
I was just about done.
So I got a text from a friend of mine when I went out in 2012. Right, drove around the country. I was, let's see. So YouTube, I started doing YouTube in 9. I think they started paying us maybe 10 or 11, and we were making pretty decent scratch by 12. Just making YouTube videos, right? So I started in 10 going to events just to do reviews of booths and stuff. So we started going to SHOT Show out of state back in 2007. Then in 2009 we flew to Florida, and that cost $3,000 to go to Florida in 2009 for me and 2 guys. Greg bought a camera. He went to the store and bought a high def video camera, and then we returned it on Sunday when we came home. But aside from the camera, which I guess it was a wash, it cost us $3,000 to fly to Florida and go to SHOT Show. And we brought in, I don't know, a lot. We brought in a lot of videos and photos, well, a lot of photos and some video. And then we went to NRA show in 2010 out in North Carolina. We went to Salt Lake City for a show in 2010. So I really liked going around and going to these trade shows. Both experiencing the shows and the travel was cool, but we were making videos about the travel and the gear, and then about the experience of travel. We didn't have live stuff yet, but we were just about to start getting it. And we had the live stuff on other venues. So we would go to places and we would be on this thing called, I forget what it was called. It was basically a one-way video thing, Quicks or something, or I'll think of it when I'm not trying to think of it. But it was like we would turn it on our phone and be live, and then people could text to us while they were watching. So we would go on YouTube and say we're going to be heading to wherever in the vehicle, and we'll be online with Kicks or whatever it was called. And then people would chat with us or whatever. I'm curious to see if anybody around is still from those days. But that's how we started doing the live thing, and I really liked the part of sharing the adventures of going to these places, because anybody can go to a place and take pictures of gear and then show you the pictures of gear. Big deal. The fun is going to it and experiencing the event and all of that, right? And I've always been more interested in that part of it than the gear anyway. So we were sharing that kind of stuff. So in 2012, I basically said, fuck it. I had made a couple of bucks and I'm not interested in stacks of cash. So I said, I found Haas, my friend, and he basically was broke. And I said, you don't have to pay nothing. Just come with me, help me drive. And let's drive around the country for a while. And we wanted to go see Jeff from Cutlery Lover. We wanted to go see Such and Hickok and Eric and whatever the other big YouTubers were. What's that guy's name? Mad Bad Voodoo was big, and he wasn't turning into a pervert yet. And then there was a couple other big YouTubers. So basically, take a stack of money, put it in my wallet, and I bought a cop car, and then we drove away. And Haas came down here on a train, and we drove off. So I just had to figure out which way to go, right? And wanted to hit some of these YouTubers or whatever. And that alone wasn't enough. I'm not that crazy. That alone wasn't enough. But whenever I decided, okay, I'm going to make this trip, and there's these things I want to see. Bannerman Castle was one of the things I wanted to see even back in 2012. The wall had just fallen down. So if I would have got there a year earlier, I would have actually seen the full wall before the castle, like half the castle fucking fell down. So anyway, I really wanted to see this castle before it fell down the rest of the way, because it had just fallen halfway down. And I'm like, all right, this is still not a done deal. There's not enough stuff to do to anywhere near outweigh what this trip's going to cost. And I forgot what it was going to cost. It was like $4,000 or something. So I started looking at who I could meet along the way, and we started talking to firearms manufacturers and figuring out what kind of factory tours we could do. And I started getting a bunch of factory tours lined up. So that was making it more and more appealing. And then FPS Russia had just done the video where he shot those AA-12s. I don't know if you remember, back in the day, he did some video where he shot AA-12s at like soda can or 2-liter bottles, like what Hickok does. And I think it went on like TV or something. So it was, it's a long time ago before YouTube was that big. So he was doing it on YouTube, but I think it went on TV. Anyway, so I had been aware of these AA-12s, and I thought, oh, those things are neat. But here nor there, I don't really give a shit about full auto shotguns or whatever. I had just seen them before. And I knew that they were beyond, Atkins or whatever his name was, Florida prototype, So, okay, this guy's shooting them, so they must exist somewhere. Didn't put it here nor there. But as I'm looking at for manufacturers of where to go, I knew that somebody who made this little obscure guy who does just a few, like dozens of little tiny revolvers every year, like the NAA revolvers. I knew there was this guy in Tennessee that made tiny little revolvers, but he only did them like in the dozens, like very, very few. And I couldn't figure out for life of me why this guy would go to all the trouble of making a few guns. Like, why would you do that? So anyway, I figured out how to get a hold of that guy, and I called him one day, and they said, oh yeah, sure, come on by. That'd be great. And I said, okay, great. I'm gonna go check out this guy who makes these tiny revolvers. And then somewhere along the research, I figured out that that's also the guy who made the AA-12. So I was like, oh, okay, can we look at that too? And they're like, yeah, sure. So that's what said, okay, fuck it, I'm going on this trip then. So that's what made the whole trip worth taking. So we drove out of Tucson, we went up there and met Boje and Dottie, who are little old folks, not too much different than Tony and his wife, only instead of being whatever Tony did, this guy's an engineer working in his machine shop every day. And it's like an olden days gas station. I really, 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 really wanted to take a picture of the outside because you couldn't get a better coolness factor. It's just an old gas station that's no longer a gas station, and it's obvious, but they didn't change any of the structure from the gas station. So it's still like a service shop gas station type of thing back in the old days, wooden building and everything. And, glass doors and glass with like the actual glass in it. No, none of this window bullshit that's, modular, like an actual, just the wall is turned, just changes into glass, and then they put some mold up and then they keep going with the wall, like a really old building. And old concrete, just a really, really cool old building. I thought we're in the wrong place. You walk in and it's their machine shop, and yeah, they're making AA-12s. There's just pile of full auto shotguns everywhere. It was the best thing ever, but I didn't want to take pictures of the outside. I don't even think I took pictures of the outside because I didn't want them to get out, because I figured that was a security thing, let people know where you could just walk in and grab these AA-12s. Anyway, went in and met with these people, and they're like your grandparents. They're the coolest people ever. And they just have an incredible story, and their story happens to include they developed and perfected the AA-12 full auto machine gun, or shotgun. So yeah, it was just awesome hanging out and talking to these people in the machine shop where the machines are, and just parts laying everywhere. You have to move parts of a full auto shotgun in order to sit down. The way you kind of, either an engineer is either going to be meticulously clean, everything put away perfect, everything in its place, or the other way, right? Like everything just looks like a crazy explosion happened, but he knows where everything is and what every rag is underneath of what, and that kind of thing. And that's how Boje is. So just a awesome experience. And the problem is that they work with a guy who owns the gun, and that guy was not really interested in pursuing a semi-auto version, the civilian legal version. And they were kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, not being able to do much with the improvements they've made versus the rest of the direction of the gun or whatever. Anyway, sounds like today I can announce that they finally did sell their stuff to a guy in Florida who's going to be doing a semi-auto version of the AA-12. And Yeah, it was kind of neat. It's been frustrating when you're kind of behind the scenes on stuff and you know about things in the works and then not supposed to talk about them or whatever. But anyway, I just got the email, so I'll maybe do a video or something. Post the article that they wrote. And I'm kind of curious too to hear some of the rest of the details. I've talked to them and stuff along the way, just here and there. Because again, it's frustrating. It's a neat gun. Just have you ever seen the how it works?
I have not.
Let me go grab my video and we'll watch it for a second here because it's sort of it's not really an AK-47. It's not really a Sten. I mean, it's not really, but it's closer to them than almost anything else. But it's a shotgun. It's just a neat little machine.
I love the cluttered old shop. I really do. And I tend to, when I did work, I tended to have every fucking tool that I use for a particular job laying on the bench. And then when I get done with that job, I clean everything up and put it away and move on to the next job. And then I got a rolling table, which really wasn't a table. It was a rolling, it had a shelf on top, but it was had walls on like it was a pan instead of a tabletop. And I reinforced it to hold weight because it was like a kitchen cabinet thing. It was pretty lightweight. And I started using that so I wasn't walking back and forth to the bench 30 million friggin' times a day. But I was one that I would not walk out of my building and leave it dirty unless I was in the middle of something and I just ran out of friggin' time.
But between jobs, in other words, like between tasks, then you'll clean up for each
right,
next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like if I'm halfway between, putting a new clutch in a truck or something, I wasn't going to put all the stuff away and then just to get out the next morning.
I'm more like the once a month or like once a big project. I can understand completely like you're starting a big project, an important project or whatever, something of significance. So you want all your stuff away. You got the most room possible and you want all your stuff available quickly. I'll put everything away. But if it's just like, oh, I need this wrench, I'll sometimes just drop it and move, so that I'm not wasting all that time putting it away. And then maybe once a month go through and straighten everything up so that it's all tidy, make sure stuff ain't lost or whatever missing.
Now it looks pretty cluttered here, but if you look closely, it's not so much cluttered as just stacked with shit that I got no place to put. I don't have near enough shelving in this damn garage to have all this shit in here. But my tools stay put away unless I'm using them. And even one of the nice things about my job was they bought my tools. They went to Craftsman and bought a big rolling toolbox full of tools, like $4,000. Just plunked the money down and bought it for me. And, it wasn't mine, it was theirs. So when I left, I took what few specialized tools that I owned with me and, the tools that were there were theirs. But, I felt a sense of responsibility to take care of their stuff too. And my boss was pretty cool about tools. He's like, if you need it to do the job, get it. You don't even have to ask, just get it. There ain't no sense wasting a bunch of time trying to do something different. If it takes a special tool, get it.
Yeah, most of the time it's worth the effort and worth the cost of the tool in labor savings. But then once you got that tool, every subsequent job is that much quicker. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like buying ball joint press. For the first time, I had not done any ball joints before, but that wasn't the only time I ever used it. I mean, every fucking Dodge truck that came into our place that had more than like 70,000 miles had ball joints gone because that Cummins diesel so freaking heavy.
And then how often are you changing them? Like every 10,000 miles?
Oh, hell no. I don't believe I've ever changed them twice.
Oh, okay.
One, I did on one.
Oh,
But
you said
that was
70. Okay, so it's another 70 or something before they wear out again.
right. Yeah, we don't keep them that long, or didn't keep them that long. I did change them twice. One time because, or no, I didn't. Other kid that was helping out put them on. They were wrong, and when they went to the alignment shop, they wouldn't align it because they had wrong ball joints in it. I put the right ones in it, but no, it was the first. We bought that press for like $120, and it was well spent money by the time I left because I'd used it 10, 15 times. And every time was a Dodge truck. Well, I bought my own here for the Suburban and it wouldn't even work.
Wouldn't work on your Suburban?
Nope. The top ball joints are riveted in so you can drill them out. And the bottom ones, the freaking cups for the ball joint to fall into, would not fit on the lower control arm.
I want to hear that. All I want to hear about is fast, easy ball joint repair replacements.
Ball joints on the Chevy are pretty easy. I mean, it's a simple procedure. You park it on a hard surface, take the thing apart, and you just lower the lower control arm onto a sturdy stand. And I used either jack stand or a hydraulic jack under one of the two, can't remember. And just beat that freaking ball joint out with a hammer. It'll come out. And it didn't take a hell of a lot of beating on mine. And this was at like 190,000 miles. So it had been in there a while.
Well, mine's not all rusty either, so hopefully it'll pop right out. All right, well, that's enough, man. Let's talk about this AA12 here.
So this is the AA12 without its polymer furniture.
Yeah, without the plastic stocks. And this is the gas pass.
Hey, I got to step out of here a second. I'll be right back.
This is the barrel, and these are the gas slots. See,
Okay.
I've got a patent on this. Now we just, rather than drilling holes, we just cut a slot, and then we'll put a casting in on the bottom side of the casting here. The slots are rounded off so they won't rash cut the plastic. It works well with this, no problem. And of course, then this goes in there. And then of course the fence is so back in, but that's the gas system. And then of course this is the gas tower. It's the gas and that's the cylinder itself. And this is the piston which will be driven back. And this is, so as you shoot, you have of course the recoil driving you back. You've got a force pushing this way, pushing the gun forward, so you offset about 95% of your recoil. See, and this is, it really works. And so, that's the gun. And one of the, this is how I solved the mounting of the barrel. I don't know if any other gun is made this way.
Oh, that's fast.
You know, just the simple, and it really works well. You know, it's very strong, and you can quickly change your barrel. Clipping this in. And you know, a number of other things in this changes.
183 changes, 188 changes they made to it.
Of course, this is all stainless. None of this will rust. You know, corrode.
Did you say it was recoil operated?
And these are, of course, all investment castings. Of course, we do machine to critical surfaces.
And it looks like you really, except for maybe drifting the pins, there's no tools. Take them off.
And then this is a set of nylon darts, which I probably have used for testing 100 times. So they a little rough.
It looks like it's fairly lightweight. The outside part, but tough but lightweight.
Yeah, this is nylon, which has been glass filled. There's fiberglass filled reinforced. This is strong stuff. Yeah, it's very strong. And that's how you put one together. That's it.
Almost like a skin instead of a.
Yeah, I would not have chosen that if I would have designed this. I think I would have used the side plates and coat to make them surfacey. It's the outside, but that's just design. But yeah, we got this thing to work. You want to shoot it?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I think this will shoot it. So
No, they don't want to shoot it. They said they were shooting it.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage.
Goddamn fucking commercials.
I don't know if you saw that though, but it's a pretty simple gun. It's pretty neat. There's not much to it, and yeah, very cool that gun's going to live on now and be a semi-auto.
Did they say that was recoil operated?
Well, it's gas operated. It blows the gas through the piston and everything. It's a lot like an AK in that respect.
Okay, so that top tube's gas tube.
Yeah, except that it's not really a tube as much as that gas gets blown out of the barrel through the gas port, I guess, and then it blows to that piston and then just releases. There's no tube that the piston is in, like in an AK. There's a gas tube that the piston's in. This just, there's enough force to just blow that piston back from the initial blast, and then it just dissipates inside of there, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean,
I would not want to shoot a fully auto 12 gauge.
there's nothing to it. It's you can shoot with one hand. Like he says, it takes 95% of the recoil away. So it wasn't. I mean, we shot it into a snail, so we weren't shooting it just, casually or whatever. We were shooting it into that little hole, but no problem at all holding it into there. I basically shot it with one hand, holding the camera with the other hand. It's kind of a neat gun to shoot. It's got a neat, interesting cyclic rate, and again, it's 9 pounds or something. So 9 pounds with that massive bolt mass or whatever, carrier mass. It's really manageable. It's not much. There's no recoil on your shoulder, and it doesn't have much rise.
Who in the hell was in the background of that video saying that looks light?
Toss, probably. He's a Marine.
I guess light is relative then.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to be toting around a 9-pound gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting gun and everything, but yeah, it's not a practical gun. Magazines for shotguns are huge.
Yeah, as I was looking at it, I was trying to figure what was what, especially before it had anything on it but the barrel. Because I thought that was a shell holder tube at first, like on a pump shotgun or semi-auto that you buy.
Yeah, like the magazine. Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, how in the hell is that going to work? I mean, but if it's gas fed on top, then that bottom tube, the barrel, and it takes a freaking drum magazine.
They also have a stick, but mostly they shoot drums out of it. Yeah. So I have a drum from AA-12, very cool souvenir from Dottie and Boget, and then we have Sears. Actually, we have bolts and Sears out of them, so I have a full auto Sear out of an AA-12 too. Very cool people, and good to hear that the gun is going to continue on.
Sounds like it, yeah. I like to hear interviews from guys who act like they are a little bit uncomfortable with it, but they're really, really honest and they really want to tell you what you want to know.
Oh yeah, exactly, and that's where people are like, "Oh, you have more polished videos." I'm like, "Yeah," and then they're not the same. They're no longer just you're sitting there with some guy's grandpa talking about the gun. You're everybody's putting on airs and it's just fake. It just doesn't seem.
I wish to God I'd had foresight to do interviews, even just recordings of a couple of uncles and a couple of grandpas, because I had one of my uncles was a very top ranked shooter in the Army. And I mean, this sumbitch could shoot. I'd seen him shoot a rabbit out of a moving car. The rabbit's running and he shot it with a rifle. And he was drunk. He hit it. I mean, I don't condone that activity, mind you, but fuck, it's hard to hit a rabbit with a rifle when you're not moving. I've known people who really, really can handle a gun, and they're dead and gone. Same way with old machinists, man. I was buddies with an old machinist at Caterpillar that taught me more about machine work than I probably could have learned in trade school. And he was one of them that would say, "This is how you do it," and put the thing in my hand to do it.
Well, honestly, that's the best way to learn stuff.
I mean, this guy had a 14-foot steel lathe or metal lathe in his garage. And he was one of those that his garage was piled about chest deep of shit that you couldn't look through it in a month, but he knew what was in there, everything. He actually gave me an airplane engine once, and he offered to give me a turbine engine, which I was an idiot and I should have took. Because the turbine, the way it works is the more fuel you put in it, the more horsepower it makes. And it's pretty much unlimited. I mean, there's limits up there somewhere, but I mean, a little bitty freaking engine about the size of a riding lawnmower engine could do hundreds of horsepower if you get the fuel in it. I don't know what kind of problems there would be, putting fuel in it. Quite possibly if it was gasoline, it would be under too much pressure, and it would start igniting as it's coming out of the spray nozzle. But the theory of the turbine is that you can, make whatever horsepower out of it if you can feed it enough fuel. Hey, I got company here, and I need to wind this down.
All right, I'm just going to go through and look and see if we got any new stuff. And
All right, let's run through the front page.
Dana looks like he posted something about the SIG 365 for Military Arms channel. Dead Horse had after chat last night. Clover did his best gun channel bracket. Night Strike won that one. There's that Oklahoma restaurant, 4 people before the guy was taken out. 4 people wounded. Gunslinger had an hour-long chat last night. Missed that one.
Is that a newbie?
Snowy North Gunslinger, yeah, he's fairly new to both gun channels, but also making videos and stuff. He does a lot of fishing, posts a lot of fishing video or stuff on Instagram.
Cool. Welcome.
Extreme risk protection order passes the Massachusetts House.
I passed Illinois House too.
What is this? Oh, is this that red?
Red flag law.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see repercussions from that, I'm sure. More chats. Looks like Heavy was looking for a 1911 frame, and they were talking about doing 80%, I think. Would you do an 80% lower as a project?
Would I?
Yeah.
No. I've toyed with the idea a couple of times, but I really, I looked at the Glock side of it, and it's not worth money.
Yeah.
I just go buy a freaking used Glock.
Oh, they cost that much? I haven't really paid attention to prices on them.
Well, hell, you got to buy the slide, the barrel, all the shit that goes in it.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah, that stuff ain't free.
And then the frame's like $60-$70.
I guess it's handy if you've got the parts laying around from mods to other guns, and you've got, accumulation of most of those parts laying around, and it could be a useful way to use some of those parts, I guess.
I think most people would lean into that, just having a gun that's off the books. And I don't blame them. I really don't. It's not worth it to me. I don't give a shit about my guns being on the books.
Speaking of something we all give a shit about, breakfast cereal poll on Monday. So looks like we got a 5-way: Cookie Crisp, Golden Grams, and Lucky Charms, with a couple right
Captain
behind.
Crunch, Peanut Butter Crunch is supreme.
They didn't even get Peanut Butter Crunch. It lost out to stupid Crunch Berries, like the second level.
Them things, for some reason, tear up the inside of my mouth, but I love them.
Yep. Now, I haven't, I'm like a lot of people who mentioned that, this back when I was a kid, occasionally I'll eat something cereal-wise, but I don't eat cereal very often at all, maybe a couple times a year.
I had some Sugar Smacks, I think they're called. Generic variety, but I had some last week.
Bill Smith changed out his logo. Dano asking about the deals over at PSA. I haven't seen this one.
CNN has seized upon the awful shooting at a Texas high school.
Like it's a commentary on that. Have you seen this? This is in Texas. We talked about this in Dead Horse's chat. He had posted something about it the other day. So this was in Texas. They passed a law or something. Some Open Carry Texas, which is a fairly, known organization, OCT, Open Carry Texas. They called the police chief of this town and said, "Hey, we're going to do an open carry march. Is that okay?" And they said, "Sure, yeah, go ahead and do whatever you want." And then they have that all on audio, I guess. They were covering their butt or making a video or documenting the situation. So they get the authorization that go ahead and do your thing, and then they go out here and the police show up, and look at this. They're making a big commotion out of it all, and it's these two guys. One guy has a rifle on his chest, the other guy's just carrying in a holster, and they make a big commotion out of it. There's a whole bunch of people with cameras, and then you get to this point where the cop said, there's the police chief who said, "We're not going to bother you. We're not going to tase you or anything." This guy in the yellow is filming, and he's got the 1911 or something on his side. He's got his camera. Now this guy comes over to ineffectually handcuff him, and we'll pause here. This is the police chief. This is the chief of police right here. And I found that if you go into your YouTube and you put this speed down to 1/4, it'll make us see it a little easier. So this is the chief of police. So this guy had priorly called and asked if it was okay to do this march. And they said, sure, we're not going to do anything. He's like, you're not going to tase me or nothing. He literally said that. He's like, nope. Here he is literally tasing them right now. So this guy gets tased from the back, goes down. You don't see it from this angle, but you could see from his bounce and his immediate reflex to grab his head that he went head first into this concrete. So his phone is on the ground over here, and there's the cop proceeding to try to get those handcuffs on him. And this guy over here was kind of being real aware of what's going on and obviously complies quite a bit. Keep an eye on that camera. Cop behind him gets real frustrated. This guy couldn't comply more. I mean, he's just literally doing his business there, not doing anything. Throws the camera onto the ground. Boom, boom, boom. This guy's over here yelling and screaming the whole time. If I had the audio on, this guy in the yellow has not stopped yelling and screaming. He's pointing at the cops on the ground. Look at this. Ugh, all kinds of things that I would not recommend anyone. But anyway, here they go. What's odd is he's handcuffing him. He hasn't taken his gun. I don't know what the procedure is, but I think there's plenty of stuff to point out. Look at this guy's head now. You can see how much of a wound he got from being tased. Now, in a second here, this guy, the chief, comes over. Now watch this guy in the brown, minding his business. They push him the fuck down. Big fat guy, bam, into his face. I guess he got hurt from that. And now they're trying to handcuff him again. And he's too fat to put his arms behind his back, so they hurt his wrist, broke his wrist or something, trying to handcuff him. This is not the cop pulling a gun. This is them taking the big guy's gun. So now the cop has some kind of Glock with an RMR and a light on it. And he's about to go get this guy's gun and put it in his hand also. So kind of an interesting video of frustrating police work. Oh, and then there's the even worse part. If you weren't really pissed yet, let's watch the treatment of this old guy. I'm going to put it on like a little bit different speed, so you don't have to be at a half speed. So look at this. This guy's laying on the ground, and they lift him up by his arms. And instead of like doing anything else, look what they're about to do. Go up under his arms. And that's how he's being taken to his police car. Can you imagine? So, okay, let's help this guy out, right? Nope. Let's grab him by his arms and his pants. And that's how they take the guy over. Notice the taser barb. We figured this out. That's that thing bouncing on the ground there. His taser barb is still attached to him. It's not hitting him anymore, but it's still stuck in his clothes or whatever. So that's unceremoniously drug over to the car like livestock, really.
Well, the first comment I want to make on this is, if you're in that situation, comply with the police. Even if you're in the right, comply. I cannot stress enough how much danger you put yourself in by arguing with the cops, especially if it's a gun situation.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that guy in yellow was thinking by not complying pretty quick with that cop, but at the same time, it didn't take very long. We were watching it in quarter time, so it happened pretty quick in real life. And they were pretty much trying to figure out what the heck. We were just, we just did our best to comply here. We were just told we were in compliance. So what you're telling us right now is, in direct conflict to that. Frustrating. So yeah, I believe that those guys will probably, there's no way, I don't think anybody can look at that and go, oh yeah, that's an appropriate use of their authority. That was messed up.
Oh yeah, there's a number of cops there that need to be fired.
Yesterday was World Turtle Day. Remember Mr. Knives? He's over there, got a chat going right now, in fact. And then Russ putting a poll up for Paul Harrell versus John Wick. So you know who that is, Paul Harrell?
Yes.
And then John Wick. Which one would you have voted for there?
Well, Paul Harrell, since he's real.
Yep, that's what I think I did too. So then we got Knives again. Let's see. Banned from YouTube. Something on the Range YouTube channel. Mechanisms, history, shooting sports, sketches. Banned from YouTube. Well, let's talk about that. I'm over on the YouTube jail as well. Or whatever you call it. They gave me a strike or whatever, right? And they said May 23rd I would get my stuff back, or at least my strike would be removed. And I'm logged into the wrong channel right now. But they took my strikes away. My strikes are gone. I'm back to having all green little smiley faces, but I've lost my live. I can't go live anymore.
That's
so I don't know
what happened to Ponnery.
Well, he got his stuff taken away, but they didn't tell him. But then after 3 months, he got it back. Mine's 3 months later, and it didn't come back on. So I did my 3-month penalty box, and now it didn't turn back on. So I've effectively lost it, I guess, permanently, or at least whatever. If it's an automated system, it didn't happen, and I have to try to bug them, or it's so many strikes and you're out because this is my second strike or whatever. So I don't know, but yeah, it's frustrating. So YouTube is a system that, you know, we either comply with it or move along. I'm trying to move along. What was this thing? Oh, you put a thing up about what was this? A fox grabbed a rabbit, minding his business, eating that rabbit, and then a hawk came by, or an eagle came by and ate the fox. Is that what it is? Like a video?
No, the fox. It's a short video. Yeah, just watch it. It's
okay. So this fox is carrying off a rabbit, and then the lady comes in from Walgreens. She's a blunt. I don't think there's nothing we can do. We have to watch this whole piece of shit. Yeah, buy a piece of shit plastic from China, and now you don't have to think about the people in other countries. You don't have to do any real actual activism. Just wear this stupid thing. Okay, so now is there any audio? No. So this little fox, that doesn't seem like a very big fox. He's a little guy carrying that rabbit.
Foxes aren't very big.
Oh, yeah. Then eagle takes both of them. Because he didn't give up the, oh no, he did give up the rabbit. Okay, he got it.
Yeah.
Oh. It looks like he almost, or did he take the rabbit? Did the eagle take the rabbit? Oh.
I think so, yes.
So the eagle came along, took the rabbit, and the fox was like, hell no. And he held on to the rabbit for a little while. It wasn't like the eagle took the fox.
The reason I posted it was like, you know, some days you're the eagle, some days you're the fox, but you never, ever want to be the fucking rabbit in the deal.
Exactly. Yeah, that's gotta suck for that little fox. He was all happy he caught a rabbit and stuff. Now he's like, oh dang it, stuff comes from above and takes my shit away. Looks like what Travis posted something there. You linked on it. Knives, Ponnery showing a big turtle somebody found. Some kind of big snapping turtle. I know from experience, if you go up and grab Knives from behind, that's what he does. He makes that same look.
I'll tell you what, if that bitch gets a hold of you, you're going to have a bad freaking day.
Oh, yeah. I can't even imagine that thing chomping on you. All right, well, that was the main page. Appreciate all the people that do post stuff over there. That's what it's all about. And feel free, if you're doing shows, to dig into the front page. It's a plethora of information. You can either do it like we did, just skim through it, or go in and grab the pieces that are worth watching and just do the best of on your shows or your blogs or whatever it is you might be doing. But Tony was talking about getting out of here. We know Knives has a chat up and going. And everybody's talking about, Rooster's talking about those cops. Let's not forget that those are 3 cops in some town who are trying to do something. Who knows what their deal was. Obviously, it came out poorly, but heck of a lot of cops out there doing a heck of a lot of good work. Nobody puts a camera on any of the stuff they're doing. Do a ride along. Even if you hate cops, go do a ride along and see what, put yourself in their shoes for a little bit. They got a horrible, horrible job. I think it takes really good people and just puts them through the ringer. They do excellent stuff. Got Memorial Day coming up. Today is Friday, isn't it? So let's close it out with the week. We got Memorial Day. So a couple of things. There's Veterans Day, there's Armed Forces Day, and there's Memorial Day. Veterans Day, you thank those of us who've been around, who still kicking dirt and who are used to serve. And then you got people who are Armed Forces Day. That's when you thank them for people who are in uniform working right now. They ain't veterans yet, let's put it that way. Then you got Memorial Day, and that's for the people who paid the ultimate sacrifice. So that's not a day to thank people for their service. And I urge you, just as a person, doesn't have anything to do with any kind of service or any other anything, just as a human, as for citizen of this country, I don't think you need to write Happy Memorial Day on a flag or Memorial Day wishes on a flag. You certainly don't need to write some kind of 20% off sale. And I don't know, I'm a dick, but I'm the guy who, when I see something, I've already seen it 3 or 4 times this weekend, starting this weekend out, I'll tell them this is a horrible use of a flag, and I'll unsub channels that just blatantly throw the advertising right over a flag and, are trying to use the actions and sacrifices of those, especially on this weekend, for a stupid sale. There's plenty of other opportunities to exploit for sales. This is a time for sober reflection. Ghost has a pretty decent way of summing up Memorial Day. But anyway, remember your family. We all have family that served, and think of those that might not have come back, and consider taking a moment and going out and, I don't know, just say the pledge. You don't have to make a big deal about it. Just next time you see a flag, or if you see a flag this weekend, take a second, say the pledge, teach a kid. Also Friday, so free patch Friday. Thanks, Roosted. We do have that deal. No need any coupons. You don't need any kind of minimum purchase or anything. Any purchase on Fridays, you get a free patch from the Gear website store. We appreciate that. It's literally that, and Patreon is the only thing keeping us going. Taking some time right now to do the Second Amendment history project. Hopefully that'll pay off in the end for those of us who are consider ourselves activists, to kind of know who came before us and what they did, so that we can move on from their efforts. A lot of this stuff is so similar cycle after cycle, and the antis depend on that. So I appreciate the people that are supporting that through the things like those purchases over at the store. This is May, so for the rest of the month, any 4 purchases or any 4 patches, you're going to get a magnet patch panel as well, so you can stick patches on things like metal gun safes or your car or your toolboxes and stuff like that. Another way to say thanks for the people that are purchasing stuff over there. We've also got some stuff on eBay, so check those out. Plenty of stuff going to be going on this weekend over on the gun channels. We have a schedule at the top right of every page that you go to. We've also got the daily schedule posted on the main page. Try to do that every kind of midnight. So tonight will be Right of the People, Budget Guns and Gear. Jesmla does his Fish for and Firearms on Fridays. Clover does his Firearms Friday show. And I think today they're talking some pretty good stuff. We talked a little bit about that last night. Edge does his Edge of the Week show. We were just looking, I think Edge is member number 7 over on Gun Channel. So he's been here literally the 7th person to sign up. He's been doing his show on the regular on Fridays for a long, long time. It's definitely gun flavored, but he doesn't stick to just guns. Sometimes they just talk about beer, or they talk about belts and holsters, or they just talk about news of the day, or he'll have just people on and they'll talk about whatever they feel like talking about. Just take like a stress reliever at the end of the week. So I encourage you to check out Edge of the Week if you haven't done that. Then we'll be on for the last Daily Gun Show tonight. And then you got the Saturday show starting up as well. Again, you can check out the live schedule of stuff over on any page on Gun Shells at the top right. And I think Night Strike does some kind of secret show on Fridays he doesn't post.
Just a heads up to everybody, there will not be a Caliber Corner tomorrow morning, so far as I know. Travis has got people coming into his place, and they're busy doing stuff.
And I just saw that they posted the link to gear websites. I should start saying at the beginning of the show, if you buy stuff on gearwebsites.com, I get a little noise that happens on my phone now. I did an update, so now it makes a little noise, like cash register. So people can pay to hear little noises during the show. So I remember to say that at the beginning of the show, though, not at the end of it. Anyway, that's enough plugs. Again, appreciate everybody for tuning in the mornings. We're going to try to get a hold of Jimmy, see what's happening in Phoenix with his situation, and keep efforting towards having a look at the news from a firearms point of view in the mornings.
Yes, and thank you, G-Webs, for helping out here while Jimmy's unable to. And have a good day, everybody.
Oh, I should have queued something up here. How about, you're going to get one of my Daily Gun Show ones. Oh, after a 30-second commercial. Are you kidding me? There's no way. Okay, there.